Almost 2,000 years ago, a group of people in feudal Japan found themselves pushed further and further away from the mainstream of society, as they refused to give up their spiritual beliefs to the imposed conformity of the ruling class. The ruling power made it illegal for common people to carry or own the deadliest weapon of the time, a finely edged sword. So these people had to learn to defend themselves in different ways, to walk the path of their own chosen desire, and to blend in so as not to attract attention. They learned survival skills so unsurpassed that the name ninja became feared by all who heard it. But the primary concern, then as now, was to live and to let live in peace and harmony so that all mankind can reach their own levels of heightened enlightenment. This black belt home study course is designed to set you on the path. Nenpo will give you the power to overcome life's obstacles by coming out on top. And the skills you will learn in this series will give you the flexibility to roll with life's everyday punches, the courage to climb above life's obstacles. Only your own discipline and perseverance can carry you through to the finish. Your goal of receiving a black belt and all that it stands for. And view life from a different perspective from that uncluttered height. And what the insights that you've gained will help you to slice through all the things that are holding you back from being all that you can be. You may find that instead of being caught up in fights that don't concern you, you can just hang out and observe. Unless, of course, you need to take action, and then who knows? You may be so dazzling they don't even know what hit them. We will study from the traditional schools of Kumigakureru, Kotoru, Tagakureru, Gyokushinru, Gikanru, Gyokuru, Tagagi-Yoshinru, Shinden Fururu, Kuki Shinden Rus of Grandmaster Masaaki Hatsumi of the Bujinkan system. I am proud to present this black belt home study course. Basic postures of 7th Kyu. Kosei no Kamae, Ihein no Kamae, and Hicho no Kamae. Please notice the different postures and copy them with your body with the videotape. Now we'll look at some actual movement from these postures.
Kosei no Kamae, with your rear hand approximately your solar plexus, about 2 inches from your body. Your lead hand, so you're looking underneath, so you can see your opponent, with your top hand parallel to the ground. From here, this posture, you're free to parry strikes, block them away with the lead hand, the rear hand. Apply different movements, switching from side to side. Kosei no Kamae.
Ihein no Kamae. Ihein no Kamae is basically an emergency posture. Starting from Shizen, going to Hira. If someone was punching at you from the front, and there was also someone to the side of you, you would want to use the Ihein posture. As someone comes from the front, moving off center, and striking them to the side. Also, from Ihein, you're available to do kicks, punching to either side. Hira to Ihein. Ihein no Kamae.
Hicho no Kamae. In Hicho no Kamae, one leg is bent, and you're holding the heel against the knee of the back leg. You want to keep your knee pointing straight forward at your opponent. You also want to hold your upper body so that it faces at a 90-degree angle to this forward line. Your arms are held slightly in front of you. This one at an angle here. You're kind of looking over your forearm. From here you can do blocks, kicks, you can step in and strike, other defenses and attacks as well. can fall into Hicho no Kamae as a defense for lower strikes to the knee. Say if an opponent came in with a weapon at your knees, you could jump back into Hicho. This can also be done from Ichimonji no Kamae. An opponent strikes at your knee with a sword or a staff, just picking this up. Hicho no Kamae.
Now that we've learned a lot of the basic postures in our ninjutsu system, there are many, many, many more, but these are the primary systems that we use through the different 9 ryus or different 9 schools of our ninjutsu training. These basic ones used in our basic principle 9th Kyu to Shodan tape series, that I want you to be able to learn these in a natural, rhythmical way of flowing and learn to practice moving them. As I said before, they're not stationary positions. They are transitory as you're beginning to watch our movements against different attackers, for evasion, for timing, for distancing and delivering our attacks and strikes, as well as our defenses. So I have a natural flow drill that flows from each kamae or posture, and we work on using as least amount of energy as possible as we go through these different motions, postures, and known as kamaes in Japanese. So basically, first I start in a natural Shizen no Kamae. Start in natural Shizen no Kamae with my hands resting my side, knees slightly bent, that I want to naturally be able to go down into Seiza no Kamae. So naturally, my body, just allow my body to go straight down. Down on one knee, down on the other knee. And as I approach this, my feet come back underneath me, natural Shizen. From Shizen no Kamae, I want to be able to float my hands up into Gasho no Kamae. From Gasho no Kamae, my hands come back down. I rock forward, bringing my toes up into this position. This comes from Takagi Yoshinru. It's another form also of Seiza. From this position, I want to be able to rock back with my heels and stand straight up. So it's a natural motion from down to up, using as least amount of energy as possible. I think about my energy, my body, my motion flowing straight up. So I come up very naturally, my hands in a natural Shizen posture. From Shizen no Kamae, my hands float up straight into Kongo Gasho, which is a standing Gasho form. From standing Gasho, my hands will float straight up as my feet come up a little bit into Hoko no Kamae. Hoko. From Hoko, the hands come out as my feet widen a little bit into Hira no Kamae. Hira. From Hira, I want to naturally flow with least amount of energy as possible to Ihei no Kamae. Flowing back. Ihei on the other side. Back to Hira no Kamae. Hira, the arms come in, cross over into Jumonji no Kamae, into this cross position. Jumonji. From Jumonji no Kamae, stepping back with one leg, the hand floats out, the other hand opens into Ichimonji no Kamae. One step forward into Ichimonji no Kamae, naturally. From Ichimonji no Kamae, the hand floats up back behind Doko no Kamae. Flowing back to Doko on the other side. From Doko no Kamae, the leg slides back and the arm comes in, coming into Hicho no Kamae. Flowing over, stepping with a step to Hicho no Kamae. Coming back, crossing the arms, going back down again into Seiza, or a beginning position. This is a natural flow posture. You want to learn to move, instead of moving with all kinds of extra energy or extra motion into different postures. The truest idea of this kamae or posture flow, not only just learning the postures, is the ability to naturally use the body in a natural flowing rhythm so that you're not using any excess motion to do any of your postures, kamaes. So it's very, very natural in this flow. no matter which postures that you're flowing into, that you're not using any excess energy in doing them. Least amount of energy as possible. Least amount of flow as possible. Natural and rhythmical. Practice this flowing drill every day until you master this. It's very, very... The very next forms that we're going to work on is some Tai Ninjutsu, or body skills. Skills of going to the ground, utilizing rolls, and break falls, or Kimi falls. And we're going to begin right now.
The next thing that we're going to look at is Koho Ukemi, or backwards break falls. When you're falling, you want to remember that the ground is your friend. It's not something that you need to attack by slapping it or hitting it as you go down. You need to just gracefully fall with the minimum amount of motion necessary. By bending this leg and extending the other leg out forward, you can use one leg as sort of an elevator that brings you down gently. Also, when you go backwards, I'll show from the other side, you need to make sure that your head does not touch the ground. Your head should always be bent upwards, because you don't know what you're falling on and you don't know what's down there. You want to protect your head at all costs. Also, when someone is kicking at you or punching at you, attacking you, and you use this backwards break fall, you can kick them when you're going down. Using your leg that's straight, go like this, and fall backwards. One way of utilizing Koho Ukemi is when someone's grabbing you, you grab them back, kicking out their leg, throwing them over. Koho Ukemi.
Now we're going to continue with Yokonagare, although this time we're going to take the break fall and complete a roll with it. The roll is essentially the same as Koho Kaiten, except my focus remains forward, so that it remains as a sideways roll. The direction of the roll is sideways, so if my opponent's here, I want to maintain focus on my opponent, keeping my eyes on my opponent at all times. Here, laying this down, I'm going to roll, contact the ground from this hip to this opposite shoulder here. Maintaining focus forward at all times. Now this isn't the only type of side roll there is. There's also Sokuho Kaiten, which can from here be exactly like a forward roll. Except once again, my focus is forwards here. I don't turn, do a forward roll, and then turn again and call that a side roll. I maintain focus here and roll sideways. One thing you want to make sure is that as you begin the roll, turn this knee out in that direction. This way your knee is going in the direction of your roll. Because if you're doing it here, you're going to damage your knees. Sokuho Kaiten.
The 7th Kyu forms of Daken Taijutsu are 2 fists and 2 kicks. There's Kitan Ken, which is Ura Shuto, Shito Ken, which is a thumb strike, and Sokuho Geri, which is a side kick, and a Koho Geri, which is a back kick. First, we're going to begin with Kitan Ken, or Ura Shuto. Primarily, it's best to learn Ura Shuto from an Ichimonji no Kamae posture. So I go into Ichimonji no Kamae. That I want to learn as I'm moving forward in this posture, I want to take and raise my hand up in the same position as we did the mote, or outside shuto. In a mote, the hand is in a cupped or upped position. In the ura position, it will be where the palm faces down to the ground. I'm floating into the same position, and as I step forward, the hand comes across the body and turns over, turns out, and extends like it would be to the shot to the neck, or it could be the arm, could be several parts of the body. Basic form from here into Ichimonji no Kamae, it would floats up, inside, and in. Up and in. This is Ura Kiten Ken. Shown from side view, floats up, turns Shuto. Notice that the impact, as I have a fist, the impact is when the fist opens right at the moment of contact. Explode in with this power, and rocking in with the body itself. Basic form of Ura Shuto. Next we work with Shito Ken. Pretty much the same as the Fudo Ken that we were doing, except that I have my hand more at a diagonal position so that the thumb is in the middle center of the forearm. So that the alignment, remember the alignment here on a natural punch was with these two knuckles and flat. In a Shito Ken, I'm turning and having that focal point be the thumb itself. So that the thumb is in the very center, so that the whole weight, the distribution, the alignment of my strike comes along this center line here. These thumb strikes can be used as soft tissue strikes into the body. They can be strikes into, say, into the neck, or jabbing into the eyes, or ripping straight up, cutting through the side of a person's face, or into their eyes, or up through the nose, or in the ears, striking soft tissue points in the body, called koshijutsu points, maybe into points in the arms, into the wrists, the hands, soft tissue organs of the body, using in forms of just striking, punching. Same as you're punching, you may punch, come into a thumb strike, or cutting in with another strike, switching, being able to hit the head. You'll be taught several different variations of the Shito Ken as we go along in the training. Next I want to show you is Sokoho Geri, which is a side kick. In this kick, as the knee slightly bend, the leg comes out to the side, not out to the front swinging, as it may be easier for you to do. But this actually turns and comes up to the side, where the hips start to open wide, comes up, and kicks out. Comes up, stomps out, and comes back down. This is also, it's just a quick kick. You're here, pow. You may be in here fighting somebody, someone comes to the side. So it's boom, just kicking this person off. Sokoho Geri. We'll show you some applications of that in just a few minutes against a natural partner. The next kick is Koho Geri, a backwards kick. It's very likely that at some time or some point, if you're in some kind of altercation, that somebody may attack you from behind. They attack you from behind, they may even be pushing you forward. Maybe you're going to do your break falls. Maybe not. Maybe you may just bend the opposite leg that you're not kicking on. Primarily would be maybe the one that got pushed or shifted forward. And as you bend your shoulders over, the back leg comes up, straight, kicks, and locks out. So basically the form, if I'm just standing, Shizen, it's here. Now the natural tendency in the beginning is to look to see the person. The person is going to be right behind you. So you don't need to. This is a feeling. This is where the feeling aspects start coming in ninjutsu. Very beginning levels you want to watch because you want to be able to pay attention to your opponent. Afterwards you want to be able to feel where they are. This is one of the first pieces of learning to feel where somebody is at. If you need to in the very beginning, you can take a quick glance over the shoulder as you start dipping so that you have this kick. But primarily, just kicking, locking that kick out. Notice as the body comes, the knees coming up into this position, bends over, locks out, comes back. Using your hands to balance your body. Okay? those are the basic forms of Donk Taijutsu for 7th Kyu. Now let's take a look at a couple applications of using and utilizing the Donk Taijutsu. Okay, we're going to work on some applications of the Donk Taijutsu. So as my opponent comes and they're going to be doing an attack from Ichimonji no Kamae, and I start an Ichimonji, that I may first flow back, come in using this Ura Shuto. I may start in a basic Shizen posture, where it's here, boom, doing this. I don't know where this other hand's coming. So as I come into this position, if he's going to punch and comes all the way to the outside, it gives me room to come in to the inside. If his hand comes in and it's more to the inside here, this gives me range to go to the outside. So basically, I also can, in this, clear these things so that I'm taking an inside shot with this. Ura Shuto. Ura Shutos are also can be done to where he's coming in, and so I'm already doing these things as shots. Small, so that I'm already doing Shutos. He's going to punch again. I Shuto again, Shuto again. The next thing that I want to show is uses of Shitoken, or using the thumb as a striking implement. So basic thing too also, a person could come in from grab, punch, it really doesn't matter, that immediately into soft targets by changing my angling. Thumbs can come in here, can rake into ears, can rake up through noses, can here, from here, soft tissues of the body. Pumping, boom, boom, boom. Little soft striking motions. As, say, a punch comes, that I first can come into tissue points here, poking in here, poking in the ear, poking in the body, ripping, cutting, down. Using aspects of using this Shitoken. Application of Soko Geri or side kick against two different attackers. One attacker is coming in front, facing me, and I have another one coming from the side. As the person comes here, I may not have enough time, so if this person comes, I'm just utilizing this kick. Can use it for both of them. If they're both coming from the side positions, I may have to make a timing of coming here, but it's naturally to the side. Once more, as they're coming or approaching, boom. He's here, maybe I'll block this. Now, the next aspect of Koho Geri is if I have two attackers. So maybe one's approaching, coming at me, and I turn to face this one and someone else is coming. He kick them. Pay attention to see if I took care of the other person. The next forms that I want to teach you is the Kihon Happo. We'll begin with the Sanshin no Kata. Two of the forms of the Sanshin no Kata that we're going to do in the 7th Kyu series are Ka no Kata and Fu no Kata. We will begin first with Ka no Kata, or a fire form, fire feeling form. It's more fiery in energy, fiery in nature. That in Ka no Kata, as in all the basic Sanshin postures, I begin in a natural Shizen no Kamae posture. From this basic Shizen no Kamae posture, that I will fall back and same way with my thumb, strike on my hip, my hand out in Ichimonji posture. I rock back, do a strike as the hand floats up as it does in the same as in the Mote Shuto and Ura Shuto postures. As I slide my foot in, the arm starts coming across my body, and the Shuto comes out straight. Basic form of Ka no Kata. But this is done in a more fiery type, more rushed energy. We're just fired up. So as it's coming, Ka no Kata done from the side. This fiery type form here, I'm falling back. Shonanuke, Ura Shuto. naturally, but fired up. It's a fire feeling. You need to be able to put these postures on, change the feeling, change the attitude at any time or any motion. The next kata that we're going to do is more wind, more of a flowing movement known as Fu no Kata. Fu no Kata is a wind type motion. It's naturally also beginning in a Shizen no Kamae posture. From Shizen no Kamae, naturally flowing back with a lower strike. Thumb strike here on your hip. This thumb comes straight forward as your body starts moving forward. The thumb strike comes forward, comes out, and as extending with the knee, finishing off the strike. Once more, standing natural Shizen, lower strike, coming straight. Done from a side view, Fu no Kata. Gedanuke. Thumb strike. Notice this with the actual punch with this Boshiken or Shitoken is actually done with the knee itself. It becomes a Boshiken from the use of the knee. Once more in a more fluid, flowing, natural form, of a windy type form, from a side view, and I'm just flowing in here. The next forms of the Kihon Happo. There's part of the Kihon called Torite Goho Gata. The form is Amote Onikadaki. So I have a new kit. The person comes up and grabs my gi. There are several variations in forms. The basic level at 7th Kyu, I still want the person to be watching the effects, beginning to be watching the effects of how this other person moves when I move. So if he's holding on to me and I move, I need to know how he's moving with his body, no matter how it is that I move, whatever movements that I do. So in this basic form, there are several ways to approach Onikadaki. The very first piece is that I don't want to give anything away. So my hand, as I'm in natural Shizen, my hand that he's grabbing on the same side, is I just want this to float up here naturally and kind of wrap around. And I don't want to knock this off because I don't want to give him any kind of idea of what I'm going to be doing. I want to sneak in here a little bit. I want to just reach in here and turn, punching through this arm. I want to make sure that I catch his elbow in the midst of the inside of mine. It's like there's an interlocking joint there. This hand stays in the same position as I rotate back with my body, holding on with my hands, making sure that I have this elbow above his shoulder. There's a couple different basic forms that I teach my students. A couple of the basic principles of this is, first of all, is for me not to give away what I'm going to do. So this hand just naturally slides right up. I don't want to go this because he's going to react and he's going to know what I'm going to be doing. So this hand naturally just slides up so that I'm already starting my motion. The next hand will come in punching through the elbow. I will work on getting his elbow right locked in the inside of my elbow piece, so that as I punch through, I'm locked in this position. As I leave this hand in the same position it is, moving my hands together. I want to make sure, as you can see in this, that I have my elbow higher than his shoulder. Because if his elbow is not higher, then he's not off balance, he's in a form to counter. This controls his entire body. Another main point is that I have this tight to my body. If I have it away from my body, it gives him a hold in which to escape. But if it's tight to my body, he can't pull out, and I have complete control. Very easy to take down. The forms of this, from this position, are several forms. One form that I like the beginners in 7th Kyu to practice is that basically a little bit of taking this opponent off balance as I step out, punching through. Then turning my body, so this turns, and then stepping out with the other leg, taking my opponent down. Once more, that this comes as I step out, punching through the arm, turning my body, taking down. It's more on the other side, so you see another angle of this, is that basically on this I would pull, taking this off balance as I turn, stepping in, punching through the elbow, turning back, holding on. I can now step actually in any direction. If I step back with my right leg, takes him directly in front of me where I have a good hold. The other side, please. The more basic form, or from Gyokoru, is a tighter type form, circular type motion, which this basic Kihon Happo comes from, that you want to work towards more advanced, as that as I turn here, I'm actually turning with my knee, so that I'm like dropping with my knee, and then turning back with my body. This is very dangerous in the beginning when you haven't learned to be a good uke. So actually we're learning the basic falling and going to the ground techniques inside these movements that we've been teaching you. But it's very, very important when you practice this higher level form, because it's so much quicker, that the person you're working with knows what you're doing, so practice them first very, very slow. So it's natural and slow. His hand's there, but very easy. I'm actually stepping on his hand, but you can't see. Look, Ma, no hands. So that's the basic form of Hamote Gyaku. We'll move on to some Gyaku Waza techniques. First aspects of Hamote Gyaku Kensabaki, which is a variation form of this that was actually part of the Kihon Happo at one time, and we still utilize it. That, remember before that we did the basic form of falling back, taking the wrist off, turning and stepping down. What Hamote Gyaku Kensabaki is that a person grabs a hold, but they're also punching. I've started this guard, and they're going to punch me, bam, right in the head with a straight punch. So I'm falling back at the same time, striking in here. Boom. Then I'm taking this other hand, and right from here, holding it on my body, pushing them down. Once more. This person comes here, I have the guard, same timing, blasting in here. This could be into the head. I'm just taking this hand and floating it down to my other hand, and just turning my body. Doing some other kind of hold. I could roll them over, keeping this arm on there. And if it's too painful, they usually tap. Okay. So if your instructor or the person you're doing with is too hard, learn to have this tap, and that gives a signal to the person doing it whether or not that you're being hurt, so they can back off a little bit. So once more, here, falling back, punching the arm. The arm will probably naturally drop. I can come across the face. As I take this hand, instead of pulling off from my body, I just want to turn it from right where it is, or I can take it down. Forms of Hamote Gyaku Kensabaki. Right? Next, Hon Gyaku. It's a form or variation of the Ura Gyaku. So, the basic form of Ura Gyaku is that we fall back at a 45-degree angle, reaching over. Remember, pulling the hands off the body, stepping back to turn to take down. I fall back in this position. This is a variation. I turn the wrist so that it's straight up and down, straight to the person's nose or face. Taking both hands, grasping the wrist with the fingers, the thumb pointing down. All I have to do is like bend my body forward and down to the ground that they go. Also, this is very simplified, that in the grab, all I do is reach over the top, sliding over the top, roll this over, keeping it on my body, slightly having my knees bent, bending myself forward. Very, very simple. Maybe on the other side, the other hand, the other hand. Basic guard, I'm just reaching over the top. I want to slightly bend my knees. I may come down first, bonk, roll it over. Basic form here, apply a kick if necessary. But this alone, Hongyaku is enough to take a person down. Thank you, sir. That ends the things for the Kihon Happo in 7th Kyu. I understand that sometimes at the very beginning that names and stuff of postures and wazas and techniques are in Japanese. And you'll learn them as you go along, as you learn in progression to call them by name as you're first learning them. And by the end, by the time you're a black belt, you learn all these little codings and names. But it's really there's not really that confusing, except that they're not our natural language. But it becomes a natural language of Ninjutsu, and it will help you to understand the principles by learning these names and things also.
By this level in your training, you should really be paying attention to the timing and the distancing and the angling of your movement, and also cutting out any extraneous movement. You want to be there quickly. You don't need to be wasting your energy going in other directions. All of you should be going in whatever direction you're aiming at your opponent or your training partner. So practice slowly. When someone throws a punch, practice mirroring their body, going to the inside and to the outside. The least amount of motion. When they're going slow, you go slow. There's no need to hurry. If you go faster than they are, they have plenty of time to change their direction. But if they are going fast, then you need to go fast. So really pay attention to all of your movement now. We won't be mentioning it constantly, but it's something that should constantly be on your mind, because the faster that you get better at this, the faster all of your training will go. Also, when you're throwing a punch, do you look like this? Or do you look like this? Which would you rather look like?
We've already done a lot of work with various different types of rolls, but we haven't really addressed the question of how you approach the ground as an uke, or just doing your rolls. When you're doing your rolls, you know the shape of the roll. You know you're rolling, say with a forward diagonal roll, you're rolling from the shoulder to the hip. A lot of people think that there's a stationary position. They hold their body in tight. If you're holding your body in tight, your roll is going to be choppy. You're going to hit the ground hard on certain parts of your body. Now when you have a mat, that's not really a problem, but in real life, there aren't mats. You're going to be in a field maybe, which might be soft, but it might be rocky, or you might be in a parking lot, which has a harder asphalt. You can't really hold your body in this position and do a roll and expect it to be smooth. So as you're going to the ground, you have to make your body fluid. Your body has to adjust constantly as you're going to the ground. Each moment of the roll, your body is in a different position, so you have to get used to the idea of being relaxed. This goes for the back roll too. I'm not just holding my body in this position and going over, because if I do, I'm going to hit my shoulder too hard. You've got to be fluid. Remembering to breathe out as you roll. It's very important, because as you breathe out, not only does it help to relax your body, but it also contracts the chest cavity, which helps to round your spine a little bit more. If your back is too straight, the roll is going to be choppy. You're going to hit really hard on the ground, and you're probably going to injure yourself. So you've got to breathe in before you roll, and then breathe out. You should practice your rolls every day so they become smoother. Also, when you become a smoother roller, when your rolls become more smooth, you're able to roll when an opponent takes you down more easily. Somebody takes your hand. You've lost part of the control of your body because your opponent has a hand. And as you're rolling, you've got to be able to have a smooth roll. So you're going to want to practice your rolls every day. And remember to keep your body fluid. Another aspect of ukemi that needs to be addressed is that you should never slap the mat as you're rolling. It's okay if you can't roll to do a sort of break fall, but you shouldn't really slap the mat as you're doing roll. If I'm doing a side break fall, I don't need to slam my hand against the ground. I mean, it's fine on a mat because a mat is padded, but in real life, there aren't pads. I may be in a parking lot, there may be a rock here, and I go to slam my hand and I break my arm. And one of those little cement beams that are in the end of the parking spaces or something like that. You need to be able to be fluid with the ground here. I don't need to slam any part of my body into the ground. It's bad for the roll. If I'm doing a roll here, I don't need to slap my hand here. I just want to be able to... It's okay to use your hand to push yourself up, but you don't want to slam your hand down because you'll probably break your wrist. So be sure to make your rolls and falls fluid. Don't slam the hand on the ground.
Get some techniques now from Tanto Jitsu.
Basic posture of Kosei no Kamae. Kosei no Kamae is very deceptive in that you have an apparent vulnerability right here. Yet this vulnerability is guarded by not only the knife hand, but by the upper hand as well. As an opponent comes in, you can block any sort of attack or lean in and block their defenses down, coming in with cuts. An opponent has their hands up in defensive posture, rock in, sinking your weight down, brushing their defenses down, and coming in with cuts. This can also be as they come in to attack, stepping offline of their attack. Genanuke, coming in to strike. Basic Kosei no Kamae.
Ichimonji no Kamae. With the tanto, you're going to block or parry strikes back, moving in, cutting naturally with the rear hand. Thrusting straight forward, on the outside, and the inside. Ichimonji no Kamae.
Next, I want to show the basic posture of Jumonji no Kamae. Jumonji is more of a fiery position. So in this, I'm going to be moving and doing cuts, different flows from this posture. Could rock out, cut up, cut down. Utilizing cutting up, I can move in all kinds of different forms, free-flowing. This posture. Here, rocking out, cutting, stepping, cutting up, cutting back. So my body goes out, my body comes back. Crossing my hands, cutting up, cutting down. Doing all kinds of different free-flowing forms as I move my body. Jumonji no Kamae. A couple of ideas that practices that we've been working on, some Omote Gyaku and Ura Gyaku. You want to learn to work these in the 7th kyu against an attack with a knife. If a person comes from an Ichimonji posture, I want to be able just to take this hand. Same kind of position, have them come down. Make sure that you always take the knife or the weapon away. Very important. As it comes, I also can move to the other side, turning the wrist over, forcing them to roll. Applying the pressure, taking the knife out. Always handing the knife with the blade towards yourself so that you're not getting cut to your opponent. Make sure that your partner, when they take that knife, that they have it securely. Once more, naturally stepping to the side. Ote Gyaku. I have the knife. Once more from the other side. Uragyaku. Coming over. This is actually a mote. Cut. Now Uragyaku. Come right across the face. Taking the wrist, the hand, stepping back, controlling my attacker, bending them over, holding them down, whatever it is that I need to do. Notice that he tapped out. It's time for me to let go. After practice a couple other basic kind of strikes, is like say an over the head type strike. It's the same thing. I just want to move, take my opponent down, working on always taking the knife out. Always want to end up in the habit of me holding the knife. This way it trains me that in a real fight, if I don't take away the blade, I don't want to be stuck with it. Blade's there. I'm coming to the back end of the blade. Very easy to take this over, take my opponent down, taking the blade. This is very, very basic level. I do not require you to have to take it away in a full scale, but I want you to be thinking about, now how do I move with that evasion as we were doing earlier? Maybe taking, oh, here's the wrist. What if I turn the wrist over this way? Down he goes. Exploring with the different principles and techniques that we've been teaching so far. These are the basic ideas of Tanto Jitsu that I want you to learn and to apply for 7th Kyu. You've learned a lot of different kinds of material so far. And as you progress, you begin to put these pieces together. As you see that I'm doing, that it gives you the ability to be able to enhance the way that you move in your martial arts. Also, it's a way that you want to practice these techniques, begin thinking to use the applications of these things in natural life. What extra motion do you use? Do you use too much extra motion? Begin to learn naturally to reach for things and naturally to move with a lot of other excess movement. So we're going to move on now to 6th Kyu.
My training in Ninjutsu has given me several gifts, probably more than I know, but the ones I'm aware of are primarily, the first one is my ability to handle myself in difficult situations. Not only physical situations, but mental situations. I've been trained to focus and keep my focus in one direction, have all of my energy go in one way. Also, I no longer am afraid to be out by myself at night. Of course, I don't stretch it and go in dangerous places looking for a fight. I'm not that big and I'm not that strong. But I do know that I have a very good chance if someone comes after me to damage them. And even if I am damaged in some way myself, I know that they're going to get as good as they give. So it's really made a difference in my self-confidence, my ability to go places and do things on my own. Secondly, another major gift is just the ability to streamline things. As I was mentioning, being able to focus your energy, to put all of you in one place, to not have any extraneous movement. It's made me more graceful. It's made my timing in all of my life a lot easier, a lot better, dealing with all kinds of situations. It's just a different outlook. It's a different way of being in the world and not being caught up in it. The ability to stand back and look at a punch, not having to deal with it if you don't choose to, just being able to look at something, notice what's happening, have time to decide what the best way is of dealing with that situation without just reacting and maybe not being effective in that reaction. So I highly suggest training in some kind of martial art, especially this one, for everyone out there, because in Ninjutsu, it's wonderful because there's so much of everything in Ninjutsu. It's a combination of so many different kinds of ways of moving, of attitude, of everything that you could find that you wouldn't find maybe in just another art, because this comes from a long, long history and long tradition of things that really work, things that people used in their everyday life. It wasn't made up as a sport. The situations that you can get into, you know you can handle because the training is realistic. It's not just something like in a tournament. I've watched people in tournaments, and all of the good techniques, all of the ones that would really hurt someone or damage someone in a situation, you can't use because they're illegal. So, to train to do a tournament is kind of crazy to me, because you're training yourself not to use the things that would really be effective. And in a real situation, when you don't have time to think, your body might respond with something that isn't going to be effective because you've been trained to do it that way. Whereas the way we train, we're trained to be effective always, always to look for openings, always to go after those openings, and to deal with someone all the way through, not just hit and go back, to take someone all the way through so that you know that you have at least enough time to get away, that you hurt them that much. Because you wouldn't be in a kind of situation like that unless it was real. We don't do this just for fun, although it is fun. I mean, if you're in a situation on the street, you want to know that you're going to take care of yourself or maybe protect someone else that's with you. Sometimes women have trouble thinking about protecting themselves, but they care very much about their families. And this is great because you know that you can take care of those that you love as well as yourself.
Okay.
One of the things I really love about this art is the fact that it's process-oriented instead of goal-oriented. I mean, we're not training to go to tournament or something like that, or there's not so much drive on, well, I want the next rank, I want the next rank. It's more training for the training itself. I've learned to sort of bridge this over into my personal life as well as in my training. The training is a process of continual self-improvement. You go into the dojo and you start training and you're working on making yourself better. You're not trying to master the technique or get the next rank, because there's always another step. You're always continuing the process. It feeds itself. You're constantly working on improving yourself. And that's one of the things that sort of bridged over into my personal life, is working on constantly being a better person, being better, whether that's in my business or my personal life, or just in day-to-day relations with strangers, just becoming a better person. And I find that's a great thing in this art, because it sort of attracts better people to the art. We don't get these guys who come in and they want to learn how to beat somebody up or something like that. We had a talk in class once, what do you come to this class for? What do you study martial arts for? And the guys who say, well, I just want to learn how to kick ass, these guys last about a day and a half and then they disappear. And I don't want to train with that type of people. I don't need that in my life. I don't need the negative connotations that certain martial artists bring out for the rest of the martial arts community. I'm working on becoming a better person and working with people who are becoming better people in order to make the world a better place to live. Constantly self-improving within ourselves and within each other and within the community. That's what I'm after.
I've only been training in ninjutsu for about 6 months now. But one of the things I found that has really affected my life while training with ninjutsu is the extra physical presence I've gained. The ability to do many of the things that, even when I was young, I was unable to do. Things like dive rolls or even simple somersaults. I never was able to do those before. But training at the dojo with really supportive people, I was able, in just several months, to do things that I never really expected to do ever again in my life. That's one of the really nice things that a person can gain from training in ninjutsu, no matter what their age is. You're challenged to bring yourself up to a new level. And you have the type of people around you that help and support your growth while you help and support theirs. It's a really positive place, and I really encourage anybody who's interested in martial arts to check it out.
Ever since I was younger, I always wanted to take ninjutsu, but never had an opportunity to find a qualified instructor to help me. But now, through Sensei Von Donk's video book series, you can have an opportunity to get a taste of what ninjutsu and some of the techniques are about. But I can't emphasize enough how important to have a personal instructor, qualified instructor, to teach you and help you along your own path. When I first went into the dojo about 9.5 months ago, I was totally in awe at such the positive energy that the sensei and the other students had. I always had the stereotype that martial arts instructors were all stoic and didn't show much emotion or weren't really happy people. But when I went into the dojo the first time, that changed all that for me. And every time I go step into the dojo and train and practice, I learn something new. And I always leave on a real personal high. And you can have the high too if you're able to contact Sensei Donk and get some personal advice about your life and your training. And so it'll all come together so you can have that balance that Sensei's been talking about with mind, body, spirit.